Hello and welcome, Exiles. I want to talk about a build theory for the 19 Ascendancy class. Now, they've shown us 4 Ascendancies so far, and I gotta be honest, these 3 Ascendancies, Shadow seems like a Spider minion build, Harbinger seems like it could be an Impending Doom, a cast on crit angle potentially, Gambler, Duelist just seems like it's got some generic damage, it could be a lot of things to be honest. But the thing that really excites me, and it just blows these other ones out of the water in my opinion, I am super biased by the way, is the disciple of Trialmaster, the architect of chaos. This ascendancy right here, I think, is so good looking, and I want to go over a little Theorycraft for playing a Perma cold snap, Vaal cold snap, cold dot build. Now, when I say Perma, I mean essentially, I click Vaal Cold Snap. The second it runs out, I click it again, and I do that the entire way through the map, and I'm going to explain how that will be possible. First off, starting off really, really freaking strong, Forbidden Secrets. This node is absolutely cracked, and I want to go over why. Shepherd of Souls, first off, to start off with, this has the ability to give you 80% less Vaal soul cost, along with the 100% increased cost per Vaal skill used recently. This is really good for a build like Vaal Righteous Fire, Vaal Cold Snap, to name a couple examples, because if you have a duration-based Vaal skill, which doesn't benefit from multiple uses in a row, where you just want one active and then you want to reactivate it, what ends up happening is I can have a Vaal RF, a Vaal Cold Snap that lasts over 8 seconds. So I press it once where it has 80% less cost, which means you can cast it basically 5 times in a row for the cost of what would cost you normally 1 Vaal skill use. And it will last that 8 seconds. The 8 seconds will be up, and we will not be casting a Vaal skill again in 8 seconds, which means we will not accrue that additional cost for the next time we need to cast it and reproc it. So first off, you click this node, all of a sudden you generate the souls for 1 Vaal skill use. You end up getting to use it 5 times in a row with a duration-based Vaal skill like Vaal RF, like Vaal Cold Snap. Second off, and probably even arguably the stronger node, which I just think is crazy we have this, which is Everlasting Sacrifice, not tied to Mahawaddles. This node gives 5 maximum all resistance. The thing I want to go over that's so crazy about this is normally this node is tied to this shield, which comes with quite a few downsides in terms of how easily you can get energy shield. It says, hey, once you reach full energy shield, we'll sacrifice that, give you 5 max Ellie res, 5 max chaos res, which is a really good benefit. But the thing is, Eternal Youth means you can't recharge energy shield. I believe one of these other ones starts you out at 0 energy shield and makes it really hard to leech energy shield. Like, I think Eternal Youth maybe has like less energy shield recharge rate. Point is, you have to do some weird cheese with like Ghost Dance or Divine Shield or something else to get your energy shield to proc. All you would need to do for Everlasting Sacrifice is nothing. You just have recharge, and what ends up happening is the recharge will take it to full, you'll proc this benefit, and all of a sudden you have max res, and you don't really have to do anything. And it gets even easier the second you consider the ability to go Divine Flesh. You already have 5 max chaos res, click Divine Flesh, this gives you damage diversion to chaos, which is super strong against things like Pen, and a lot of them minus max res maps, they're minus max elemental res, which chaos res would get around. So you'd get around one of the worst map mods. And if you have Divine Flesh, all damage bypasses your ES, which means your recharge is never turning off, and it's constantly going to be proccing Everlasting Sacrifice for 5 maximum all res. So this Ascendancy node at a baseline is looking like, if you're a life-based character who wants to click Divine Flesh, it is permanent 5 max all res on top of a very good Vaal skill synergy. That's just your starter node. Now to follow this up, there's some other really good nodes. Glimpse of Chaos I want to point out next. This node I think is probably the most powerful node on all these Ascendancies, even stronger than Forbidden Secrets, because it gives you synergy to be able to do either A, an Ivory Tower build where you get essentially extremely good scaling for your ES. This is bonkers scaling. Or for my example here of Vaal Cold Snap build, I want to do a life stacking character where I'm just getting a ton of extra life from this node. The idea here is essentially you corrupt all your gear pieces and you end up with 10 gear pieces which have 80% increased life, 120% increase in energy shield, and then minus 40 all res. The downside here is to basically give this a little bit of drawback to it. Essentially, it just means you have to gear more res on your character. It is a pretty rough downside, but I think it is very worth it. If you're thinking about Ivory Tower, this is crazy scaling. This by itself might beat the energy shield scaling of a Scion and an Ivory Tower build, which is kind of crazy to think about. But outside of that, just if you want to do a life-based character, which is what I'm thinking about, this will be very, very strong for life-based scaling. Life-based builds, a lot of times, like after you have a whole level 100 character spec'd out, a lot of times you have 150 to 200% life. This is looking like a node that's going to give you like 40 to 30 to 40% more life on your character. That's taking a 5k life build to 7,500 or 6,500, 7,000, that range, that sort of thing. It's looking like a 1,500 to 2,500 life increase for a lot of builds. And if you're on the higher end of scaling where you have a ton of extra flat, it could be even more life than that, which is just, I think, very, very strong. Now, outside of those nodes, the next combination I'm thinking of running into is Fever of Corruption, Vaal skill effect duration, and reduced souls per cost. So earlier I was going over how Shepherd of Souls gives you this 80% less soul cost. What ends up happening when you click this is you go from 5 uses that you can chain together without gaining any souls for a duration to 10 uses because it's 80% less and then 50% less, which means you're paying 1/10 of the soul cost for your soul skill. And the Vaal skill effect duration means the skill has very good uptime. That's how you hit that 8-second duration. This helps you get there with the skill effect duration. Now, I'm talking about Vaal Cold Snap specifically because this is a skill that reminds me a lot of Righteous Fire, but it's kind of just a cold dot spell skill, and it's got some decent scaling. What I like about this is normally on cold dot builds, you want to pair multiple different skills together to get multiple different instances of dots. And if we're specifically leaning into Vaal Cold Snap, I think it would work where we could just have the dot from Cold Snap or from Vaal Cold Snap and the dot from Cold Snap and have like a 6-link or a multi-link helmet, multi-link glove, something like that paired with this where we don't need to necessarily pair 3 other cold dot skills with it. I think it would be enough damage because the node behind this is +3 gem levels. And if you have a Vaal Cold Snap, boom, 3 levels that'll apply to your main skill and the Vaal version of the skill, and it just works perfectly. Now, speaking of that Vaal Cold Snap skill, I want to note something very cool, which most skills do not have, and that's a div card that gives you a 21/20 Vaal version of this skill. The important thing about Vaal Cold Snap, or the important thing about this card specifically, is normally to get a Vaal skill that's level 21 with 20 quality, you would have to double corrupt. I think on average it's like 10 to 16 gems that are 20/20 quality with a Doriani's Corruption. It ends up getting very expensive to make one of these. But this card, as far as I can tell, is somewhat common, and it just means that if we're playing a Cold Snap build, we'd have easy access to our top tier gem, which is just kind of a cool little benefit to this specific Vaal skill. Most Vaal skills do not have a card like this. It's just a cool thing that would pair with Vaal Cold Snap. So what I'm thinking is we're clicking Vaal Cold Snap, it creates this blizzard around us, we're shield charging around maps. It'll play a lot like RF with a bit of basically one button click we have to do like every probably around 10 seconds is about the duration we'll end up getting it to if we haven't invest into a little bit of skill effect duration, but that should feel quite good. So ultimately, I'm thinking a life-based character, Glimpse of Chaos, Fever, Corruption, Chaos Reigns, and Forbidden Secrets. I think this will pair very well. Permanent Vaal Cold Snap, that's what I'm thinking. Right now, if the other 15 ascendancies aren't like insane, I'm going to want to pick this. This is a very strong contender that I think will be a fun start for the ascendancy event. But outside of that, I will talk briefly about the other nodes because there is some pretty neat stuff going on for them as well. Depose Order, for example, very, very strong if you want to do a Vaal Stormcall build or a Vaal Lightning Strike build or a lot of the more strong, abusable Vaal skills. It gives a ton of extra crit chance. Ultimately, with this character, you're going to be looking at a lot of Vaal skill abuse, and the strongest ones are going to be the things that you end up seeing as the powerhouses. The Vaal skills that are good now are the Vaal skills that are going to be good with this character. Generally speaking, the ones that can already be kind of made to work will get super enabled by a node like this, Depose Order, and you're going to be seeing a lot of cool Vaal skills with that specifically. Another thing I want to point out is Dissolution here. This I'm not particularly necessarily that thrilled about because the thing about Dissolution is it's pretty dang awkward to have to play this against dots. That being said, it cuts the duration that normally Dissolution has in half from 2 seconds to 1 second. So if you can click this and put on a Dissolution of Flesh Jewel, and then it just has the time set to 1 second of reserve time, that ends up being really, really actually pretty good recovery. And in a lot of boss fights, this will be premium. If you're thinking about juice mapping though, I wouldn't recommend it. So this I think is more of a bossing environment node. That's my personal take on this solution. I think it's an acquired taste. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you haven't played it before, but at the same time, it could prove to be quite strong in a lot of instances. Having only to have to wait 1 second for all of your reservation to instantly go off is quite strong. And then Impure Blood plus Hewn Flesh. Impure Blood, I'm not very excited about. This is a rough one to make work, I think, because when you have your skills cost life, there's an advantage of, okay, you instantly get this blood magic effect, you get to reserve all your mana. That's kind of neat, that's decent. But then the thing that you really want to click, I think at least, is Hewn Flesh. A node like this, 100% reservation efficiency, this paired with an Ivory Tower setup is basically just two 50% reservations additionally on top of what you already have reserved, which is pretty crazy. So I'm less sure about this node. I don't know, it does kind of solve your mana issues just by clicking this, and maybe that's strong enough to warrant just the 2-pointer, because then it lets you reserve all your mana and click this without any mana issues. I don't know, maybe I'm underselling it. This could be decent as well for some specific builds. But anyways, I wanted to specifically highlight this ascendancy because I'm excited about doing potentially a Perma Vaal Cold Snap build with it, as well as I just wanted to highlight the ascendancy that I think just completely blows the other options out of the water and has me really excited. Man, we're only 4 ascendancies deep, and the other 3, they aren't even that bad. This one just looks so much better to me, even though the other 3 have some decent options as well. This is the one I'm excited about, but 15 more ascendancies to go. We'll see. There might be something that is even stronger looking than this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this take or this look at a potential Vaal Cold Snap starter. This is definitely one I'm going to be heavily considering unless there's some really good other ascendancies that tempt me away from this. So anyways, thanks for watching as always, Exiles. Take care and peace out.